Well, here in France, the President Emmanuel Macron is meeting today with the heads of all the French political parties to talk about the war in Ukraine. The meeting comes after Macron called on Ukraine's allies to, quote, not be cowards in supporting the country's fight against the Russian invasion. The French president says he fully stands behind controversial remarks he made last week about possibly sending Western troops into Ukraine. But that's caused shockwaves across Europe and been criticized by the Kremlin that's accused Macron of playing with fire. For more on this, let's bring in our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. Philip, first of all, just explain a bit more the French president's position.
I think that what we're seeing here is Emmanuel Macron, who is becoming increasingly aware of the fact in his mind that Vladimir Putin will not stop and that Europe should not sleepwalk into a new world conflict. It has to stand up for Ukraine and stand up for its own rights now. And the only way that Russia will stop is if basically Vladimir Putin is given a bloody nose. He won't ever come to the negotiating table and isn't interested in talking to the heads of state in Europe. So that is basically where I think Emmanuel Macron is coming from in these remarks, saying that Europe has to be ready to send troops into Ukraine if necessary. Of course, this isn't on the tables right now. There are no plans to do this, but Emmanuel Macron is saying this is something that needs to be taken into consideration. Now, at the same time, here in France, he is trying to split the opposition into those who he believes have a favourable opinion towards Russia and those who don't. That explains why this meeting is taking place today at the Élysée Palace with all the leaders of the different political parties, namely the National Rally of Marine Le Pen. The president of that party, Jordan Bardella, will be at the meeting today. Emmanuel Macron is suspecting the National Rally of sympathy towards Russia, as also he suspects the far left France Unbowed party also of expressing sympathy or having ideological sympathy towards Russia. There will be a vote in the National Assembly next week and also in the Senate on the support by France, French support to Ukraine, to see which way those different parties vote, whether they're voting to continue the support in favour of it or not. All of this in view of the European elections coming up in June, which in France see the National Rally in lead position over Emmanuel Macron's Renaissance Party.
So, Philip, all of this is coming as there are reports on the ground in eastern Ukraine that say the population's getting ready for a new push from Russian forces.
That is true. And the latest reports are not very encouraging if you look at what is going on in Ukraine right now. Last month, Russia captured Advika on the eastern Donbass, in the eastern Donbass region. Since then, they've moved further west and taken several other villages along the frontier. Ukraine says its forces are holding on there, but with difficulty. Russia apparently attacking 5 areas along the front line, pushing further west. Pokrovsk, Kramatorsk, Kostyantynivka are all towns that are now under threat of falling into the hands of the Russians. Now, what Russia is doing here is using its size, using its military might, using its superiority and its ammunition to push back the Ukrainian forces, which are more inclined to withdraw now to save human lives and to cling on, as they did in Bakhmut at huge human cost. But this is not looking very good for the Ukrainian leadership, which is why I think we're also seeing this posture by Emmanuel Macron to try to warn European leaders that this could spiral out of control and we all need to be ready to take the right action if need be when the time comes. Remembering, of course, that $60 billion worth of aid to Ukraine is still blocked in Congress in the United States due to the reluctance by the supporters of Donald Trump to give the green light from the Republican Party. And just one other thing which is quite important to mention is that on the front page of Libération, the French newspaper today, and on one of the French domestic channels, LCE, there's been this interview with Alexei Navalny made in 2020 where he talks about what would happen if he dies. It's like him speaking from the grave, really, saying, well, there will be people to take my place, and Vladimir Putin likes using poison because poison terrifies people. And he likes the idea of the Russian population being terrified so that he can carry on exerting what Navalny calls his dark power across the Russians.